Hey, greetings YouTube, performance reviews here, where I give you how-tos and reviews from the technician's point of view. And this is going to be an interesting video because I have here 3 Miele power heads. These are the 217 and the 213 variant. Now, there's more than one 213 variant. There's the -2, which at the end of the Miele number indicates the neck style, and there's the -3, which is the more modern neck. Actually, this is probably a -1. That's a -2. That's a -3. But you get the point. It indicates the style of neck it has. Now, the 213 is identical to the 217 for the most part, minus the pigtail. 213s have these pigtails that plug in, where the 217 does not. And the difference being these would be sold with budget machines, these would be sold with higher end or newer machines. So we're going to take these apart, and I'm going to kind of show you what's inside and break them apart real quick. Now, some of the older ones would have a red indicator, where the newer ones had the clear indicator. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get yourself a very large screwdriver or a coin. You do not want to use a Phillips screwdriver on these because that will end this base plate. So we're going to take that off. You can see the brush roller. Take the other one. Just kind of look at the older one. Alright, this is a good example. So I have always been an advocate of use a hard floor tool on your bare floor. And the reason why is some people don't, and they have tile, and they'll actually grind a hole in this base plate. And I don't know how long that takes, but that is crazy. This plastic here it's really thick. I mean, it's got to be at least 1/4 of an inch thick right there. So the fact that somebody was able to do that and just continue doing it is just absolutely brutal on there. And give you an idea, this power head is second quarter of 99. So these typically last a long time. And let's talk a little bit about brush rollers, because we're taking them out of the machine. I'm going to explain to you kind of what's in these. I've got a newer one here. I suspect it has the same. Alright, so we got 3 brush rollers. You notice the length of the bristles are about the same between all of them. Typically, these brush rollers last 10+ years before they need to be replaced. And if you turn the motor off so it doesn't rotate on hard floor, they last a lot longer. Now, these have sleeve bearings, which means every 6 months to a year they need lubrication. These need to be cleaned out with a Q-tip and lubricated. These ones are right. Don't see too much wear in those. And here's what happens when they don't. You can see this is a good one. This is a bad one. You can see where it's melted and chunked. And sometimes this is savable, but it's when the bearing, you can see that it's gotten off center there. That bearing is toast. So that's the end of that. Not really interested in saving that. Also, sometimes when they melt up like that, then they become hard to pull off. So those are the brush rollers right there. And base plates, kind of what they look like. There's a base plate with a hole in it. This guy, that's going straight to the trash. Don't care about that. So let's go inside these. Now, you can tell kind of how old, whether they're newer or older, by the type of screws as well. The older one is going to have Phillips screws, like so. Where the newer style, these are really beat up. There's a reason I got these for free. Have your T10 screws. So now we're going to turn these over, shake them, grab the screws out from the side. And I highly recommend you don't do this at home. Bring this to your authorized Miele dealer. I'll put a link below to the dealer locator. So give it a good shake. It should pull apart. After all that, this one is... Of course, I forgot the screws. All right. Now give it a good Harlem shake. So let's pull these apart. This can be rinsed. These are usually pretty tough. They can be rinsed and cleaned up. So I'm not too concerned about that. This one is still No, that's all right. Now you are seeing the reason why I recommend a service on this sort of nozzle, because you can see, we'll set the belt aside, I'll talk about that in a second. You can see all the stuff that has gathered in here. And this is just stuff that has accumulated while vacuuming. So that all is yucky. The other thing why it's like this, you want to check the ends. Back and forth play is normal. Side to side play, there's hardly any there. This one is loose. So what happens is the belt doesn't actually wear down. It's super rare that these geared belts wear down. They usually last the life of the cleaner, and these can be washed. So we'll do that. But this happens, and we're going to open that up and explain them. There's 2 more screws here, so let's go to town doing that. Let's see if these have been previously opened or not before. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. And if you haven't seen my video about the vacuum graveyard, these came from that. So open this up. Open the better of the 2 up. So again, after opening this up, we can see stuff is compacted in there. Just a ton of stuff. Again, the motor is sound in there. That's good. You can see the circuit board in here. You can also see the threading for the cable. Even though this is not a direct connect version, it still has the places to put the pigtail. So that looks all right. This one, and you can also see the 2 different motor styles. This one is loosey-goosey in there. And what has actually happened is parts have broken off in here, and this wears out. So the fix actually to this is you take a Bissell heater piece of silicone, it's like a little circle silicone, you just stick it here, and that fixes, see it's not wobbling? That will fix the wobble, or you can take an old motor end cap and stick it in there. So that would be the fix I would do. So these all need to be cleaned out, and you can see where the pigtail goes versus a non-pigtail version. So really changing the neck and adding a pigtail. I can also see where somebody definitely over-torqued a screw before I got to it right there. So that's lovely as well. So let's go ahead and grab our central vacuum real quick and get some of this debris, clean it out. Alright. So we're gonna take like these and we're gonna go wash those. Those need to be washed. On these motor sections, you can strip them all the way down and wash them if you feel it's necessary. You can see where somebody slammed this down and broke this little guy. In my case, it is going to be necessary how dirty it is. So you want to pull this off. You notice I didn't pull the necks off while I was using the central vac. That was deliberate because these are what the necks rest on. And if you get one of these loose, I've seen technicians who weren't paying attention to what they were doing. They assemble it like so, right? And then that goes loose in the board and shorts something out. And that's no es bueno. So that's why I was really careful with that as well. And these are old and brittle. I will say these have gotten super old, super brittle. You know, again, one of these is 21 years old, sitting right here. So definitely at the risk of being more than what you want to know about this project, I actually had like 3.5 of these heads that we're making into hopefully 2 units. So I've washed all these parts, of course, just to give you an idea. Kind of the failure rate and, you know, what's normal. Like this is a sad thing that happens on these squeegees come off, and this happens to anything with a squeegee. There's not really a good way to replace it. See, this one's just fine. So just something to note. All right, I've now sorted through the parts. For sake of consistency, I'm not gonna put together both nozzles on camera. You guys probably don't want to sit here and watch me do that. But I do want to talk a little bit about the motors and circuit boards, because they are fully interchangeable, no matter how it was molded. But there are 2 different motors here, and you can see them side by side. Give you an idea, there are 2 different circuit board designs. But again, they all seem to be pretty interchangeable from what I've noticed over the years, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But the key thing is these say 120 volt DC, which is really interesting, which means these motors have a lot of torque in them, What is a common thing that would happen is with people who would considerably jam their belt up. I don't know if you can see, but there's actually like a worn groove in this gear. This gear used to be available separately. I'm not sure if it still is. I'm going to show how this gear change is done. So I've got a new one right here. And this is probably the most like unkosher thing, sticking a screwdriver in a motor and using the cooling fan to keep it from turning. And you have to be very careful because it's really easy to break the cooling fan off inside the motor, and then the motor's SOL'd. So I'm going to pull this off. Make sure there's no hair. We are going to saturate that bearing with some oil. And we're going to show you up close. There you go, you guys. Hope it'll focus the difference in the gears. We're going to put this one on. And the good news is once it's on, whoops, let's put the rubber part back on. That's important. My point is, the good news is once it's on, it self-tightens, so I'm not really concerned about it. Alright. And then we are just going to settle it like that. Very, very low torque. Do not even try to overdo that. Got one of those things. So that's how that goes back together. Again, put a little bit of oil there. And boop. That's how that goes back together. Alright, I want to show an explanation how the motor goes in. You see there's like a tab right there. That actually on the old school motor goes that way, and this is pertaining to like a 217 that's early or 213, and it just sits in there like that. Where the newer style motor, let me grab one, when it goes in there, newer style motor goes in there, it actually has a different reference point. So keep that in mind when you're putting it together. The red wire here, which I'll just throw this in here for y'all to see, goes under this little thing, goes in, and then gets pushed right down there. There's also there's an arrow going to this section, and you can see if you have one of these. There you go. You know, you see these people doing these tests. They're not really tests, but they do air leak tests supposedly on the vacuum. I'm not going to get into the testing philosophy of that, but those people would have a field day with this little nozzle because I'm sure it leaks in all these little areas and stuff like that. So we're going to put this in there. And again, being very mindful of these guys, where these guys are at all times. Super important. It just goes in there like that. And now, if you were doing the 213, basically what happens is, with the 213, the cable goes in here and goes out there. That's pretty self-explanatory when you take this thing apart. But you want to make sure that this is fully rotated that way. The cables are stretched their maximum distance, and they just kind of sit in this track like so. So that's all very simple. We're going to put this back on. And this being the newer one, I've got all 4 unit screws mixed together. The 2 shorties can go right here, and my recommendation is be rather careful as these are brittle. Kind of a fun thing, you can actually put this together without any screws, and this base plate will actually hold everything together. Kind of a strange thing. Little fun fact on that. I'm going to soap the belt. Now I'm going to take this belt and I'm going to tuck it like so. Like that. Going to put the cover on. And there's a little tongue groove that these covers sit in, so you want to make sure that's in there. And you notice now the belt's in the right place. So I'll show you kind of how I work on it like that. Now we're going to put our longer screws. And again, don't over torque these, because they'll go right through the unit, and if it's not you're gonna have a bad day if you do that. And you want to really feel these out. If anything feels funny, immediately go to a handheld screwdriver and just check everything out like that. So now, got a few brush roller options here. Yeah, I think we're going to use that. So some of the other things that can happen with these brush rollers is the user can put it in upside down and wear it out wrongfully. That's something that happens. That's joyful. These are available separately. The problem with buying these separately, of course, is they're over half the cost of getting a new roller, so you might as well just get a new roller when you see them really toasted out. Just something to keep in mind. Just looking at these are just not particularly great examples of brush rollers here. Oh well. Now the other thing, keep in mind, these bearings must be clean. So I'm going to use compressed air. So these are what the bearings cool themselves with. These little holes, they're actually very important. So that's something a lot of people missed. I didn't understand what they were for the longest time, so that's something to keep in mind. I also, because I washed these, I've already oiled them, but you want to put a few drops of light machine oil, like Tri-Flow. I'll try to put some of that in the description. So you can see that there's a V-notch and two V's on the end of this. The two V's go down, the one V goes up, and that's how this goes together. Like that, like that. And then you just want to turn, make sure nothing's rubbing, everything's good. And then there is, again, a groove here, so this is going to rock on. So we're going to rock it on. And again, like I said, do not use a Phillips screwdriver. Do not use a flathead if you can avoid it, or if you do, make sure it's a really big flathead. Like that one's too small. Really big. It's a number 6. Oops. Alright, everything's on. And you just want to, you can feel it as you turn this. There you go. They actually index and lock in a certain place, and that's it. If this isn't snapped on, sometimes you need to snap this on with your fingers. So that's all back together. I'm going to go ahead and clean some of this up. For those of you who don't know, I have a great tutorial on my Patreon page that shows how and what to clean this thing up, get these marks off, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, we're going to just test the nozzle, make sure that it works on the end of the Miele here. And it's working like it should. You can see the orange indicator light. Well, thank you for watching my 217 or 213 service video. Again, really the only difference between the nozzles is this pigtail and neck. Please like, subscribe. If this helped you out, check out our Patreon page.